Damon stood in the clearing deep in the Mystic Falls woods, staring down at the man convulsing on the forest floor. And nothing about this made sense. The vampire, ancient by the look in his eyes, had been waiting here specifically for Damon, had called him by name before Damon even approached. Now he was dying, veins blackening beneath his skin like poison spreading through his system, reaching up with a shaking hand trying to speak through the pain. Salvatore, the vampire, gasped, blood trickling from his mouth, and his eyes held recognition and something that looked almost like relief. Lily Salvatore sent me. The compulsion is breaking. We're all dying. You need to know she tried to protect you. All of us. We were supposed to. His words cut off with a scream as his body arched, and then impossibly he began to burn from the inside out, flames erupting beneath his skin without any external fire, consuming him in seconds. Damon stumbled backward, watching in horror as the vampire combusted into ash right in front of him, leaving nothing but scorched earth and his mother's name hanging in the air like an accusation. Stefan crashed through the trees a moment later, with Elena right behind him, both drawn by the screaming. They stopped short, seeing Damon standing there covered in ash, staring at the burn mark on the ground. "Damon," Stefan said carefully, approaching like Damon might bolt. "What happened? Where's the vampire?" Damon's voice when he finally spoke was rough, shaking. He burned, just combusted from the inside. But before he died, he said our mother sent him. He said Lily Salvatore sent him, that she tried to protect me, that they're all dying. The words landed like physical blows, and Stefan's expression shifted from concern to complete confusion. That's impossible. Mom's been dead for over 140 years. Damon laughed, but it was bitter, edged with hysteria. Yeah, that's what I thought too, but apparently, dead mothers can still manipulate your life from beyond the grave. Before we start, subscribe if you enjoy these Vampire Diaries stories, and after listening, tell me in the comments, do you think Lily Salvatore made the right choice in how she tried to protect her sons? Or should she have done things differently? Elena moved closer, her hand finding Damon's arm. We need to figure out what that vampire meant and what's happening to the others he mentioned. Stefan nodded. He said the compulsion is breaking and they're all dying. That implies there are more vampires connected to whatever Mum did. Damon shrugged off Elena's hand, his walls slamming back into place. Great, so we've got spontaneously combusting vampires spouting cryptic messages about dear old Mum. Just another Tuesday in Mystic Falls. Stefan saw through the sarcasm to the pain underneath. Saw the way Damon's hands were shaking. Let's go back to the beginning. Let's figure out how we got here. The story had started 3 days earlier, just another rogue vampire causing problems. They'd been at the grill when Matt came in looking troubled about bodies at the old Fell property, drained and staged in a circle. The vampire they'd tracked down had been waiting for them, staring at Damon with impossible recognition. "You came," the vampire had said with wonder. "After all this time you finally came." When they'd asked who he was, what he meant, the vampire had started convulsing with the same blackening veins and internal burning. He died within minutes, his last words garbled and desperate. "The Salvatore promise, have to warn the eldest son," she said. Then he was gone. Reduced to ash. That had been the first one, and they'd spent 3 days trying to figure out what it meant, until Matt called, saying another vampire had been spotted in the woods, and this one had specifically asked for Damon by name. Back at the Salvatore boarding house, they found Caroline and Bonnie already there. The group gathered in the study, and Stefan recounted what happened. Bonnie listened with her witch face on. Compulsion magic that lasts over a century? That requires ancient magic and a serious price. Caroline pulled out her laptop. Let me search for similar deaths in surrounding areas. She started typing while Stefan moved to the family archives, pulling out boxes of old documents. Damon poured bourbon and tried to ignore everyone's concerned glances. Elena sat beside him. Talk to me. What are you feeling? Damon's laugh was hollow. Besides the overwhelming desire to drink until this makes sense, just found out my dead mother apparently orchestrated some vampire protection racket on my behalf. It's heartwarming, really. Elena didn't rise to the sarcasm. You're scared and you don't understand why your mother would do this. Damon's grip tightened on his glass. My mother was dying when we last saw her. She died shortly after. How could she have arranged protection that required me to be a vampire? Bonnie began a magical trace while Caroline searched online. Matt arrived and made calls to law enforcement contacts. After an hour, Matt returned with crime scene photos. All 7 victims had the same mark, a small scar on their left wrist that looked like a brand. He showed Stefan the image, and Stefan went very still. I've seen this before. He moved to a family portrait of their mother and pointed to her hand. There, painted in careful detail on Lily Salvatore's wrist, was the exact same symbol. The room went silent, everyone staring at the undeniable evidence connecting these dying strangers to Damon and Stefan's mother. Damon stood, slowly moving to the portrait. What did you do, Mum? What the hell did you do? Bonnie studied the symbol. If Lily wore it, and these vampires were branded with it, it's a binding mark, something that ties them to a specific purpose. Stefan searched his memories. Mum was religious, went to church every Sunday. I never saw her involved in anything occult. Damon turned away from the portrait. Maybe we didn't know her as well as we thought. Elena's voice was gentle, or maybe she did something desperate in her final days to protect her sons. Caroline closed her laptop. We need to know more about these vampires, when they were turned, if they knew each other, and we need to understand this symbol. Bonnie nodded. I can do a historical trace, reach out to other witches. Stefan returned to the archives, pulling out more boxes. We'll keep looking through family records, anything from 1858 or earlier. They worked in focused silence for hours. Then Stefan found something. A letter tucked in an old Bible written in their mother's handwriting. Damon, I think you need to see this. Damon took the letter carefully and began reading aloud. My dearest sons, if you are reading this, then I am gone, and you have become what I feared most. 3 months ago I met a witch who saw things about the future. She told me you would both be turned, that you would suffer, that one of you would lose himself to darkness so completely that redemption would seem impossible. She offered me a choice, to let fate take its course, or to intervene. I chose to intervene. Damon's voice cracked, and he handed the letter to Stefan, who continued reading. I arranged for certain vampires to be bound by magic to watch over you. Specifically to watch over Damon, my eldest, who feels too much and shows too little. The witch's vision showed me he would suffer most, would lose himself most completely, and I could not bear it. I made a magical binding that would protect him from shadows, turn away threats, guide opportunities. I know this is manipulation, but I am your mother, and I would rather sin than watch my son be destroyed. With all my love, your mother, Lily. The silence was crushing. Damon stood frozen, processing words his mother had written over 140 years ago. She knew, he said hollowly. She knew I'd become a vampire, knew I'd suffer, and she didn't stop it. just arranged magical baby. Stefan's voice was gentle. She was dying. What could she have done to prevent us being turned? But Damon wasn't hearing him. She chose you over me. The letter says specifically she arranged protection for me, not you. Why? Because she thought I was weaker? Stefan's expression flickered with pain. That's not what it says. It says she saw you losing yourself most completely and thought you needed help. Bonnie interrupted urgently. The spell's breaking, and that's why the vampires are dying. The compulsion is too old, the magic failing, and they can't survive without it. Matt's phone buzzed. 2 more bodies just found. Same method. Georgia and South Carolina. Caroline's eyes widened. If there are more dying, we need to find any left alive. Bonnie prepared a locator spell, and after tense minutes her eyes flew open. I've got one. She's close, maybe 30 miles in Brookfield. Stefan grabbed his jacket. Then that's where we're going. They drove to Brookfield in tense silence, following Bonnie's directions to a modest house. A woman answered, maybe 30 in appearance with ancient eyes. Her gaze went immediately to Damon, and recognition crossed her features. Damon Salvatore, I've been waiting so long to finally speak your name to your face. Her hand clutched at her chest as blackening veins began spreading. Please come inside. I don't have much time, and there are things you need to know. They moved inside quickly, and the woman collapsed onto her couch. My name is Margaret. I was turned in 1852, and in 1858 I made a vow to Lily Salvatore to spend my existence protecting her eldest son. I've kept that vow for 146 years, and now the magic is claiming its price. Damon knelt in front of her. Why would you agree to that? Why give up your vampire life? Margaret's smile was sad, because Lily found me in my darkest moment, considering ending my existence, and offered me purpose. She told me about you, about the boy who would suffer and struggle and lose himself to darkness. She asked me to help keep you from being completely lost. Having a purpose saved me. Elena sat beside Margaret. What exactly did you do? Margaret's breathing was laboured. Small things. Eliminating vampires hunting you specifically. Leaving clues about threats. Making sure certain people crossed your path. We were never supposed to interfere directly. Just nudge fate toward helping you survive and find your way back to humanity. Bonnie leaned forward. How many of you were there? Margaret's eyes were starting to glaze. 12 originally. We took shifts watching from distance. Some were killed protecting you before you were even turned. 5 more died over the years. That left 4. And now I'm the last. The compulsion broke for the others and killed them. I felt it starting 3 days ago. Stayed alive through while hoping to see you. To tell you your mother loved you. That everything we did was because she couldn't bear you suffering alone. Damon's voice was broken. I did suffer. I became exactly the monster she was afraid I'd be. Margaret touched his face. But you came back, didn't you? You found your humanity again. You survived Damon Salvatore, and that was all Lily wanted. She just wanted to make sure you had a chance to get back up. The words hit Damon like a blow as tears streamed down his face. Margaret's body convulsed violently. There's something else. Something Lily left for Damon. The original Salvatore estate. There's a root cellar that survived the fire. Hidden. Only Salvatore blood can find it. Inside you'll find. Her words cut off with a scream as flames erupted beneath her skin. Damon grabbed her hand, holding on despite the heat. Margaret, stay with us. But her eyes were distant. She's proud of you. Both of you. Tell her story. Then she was burning, and Damon held on until flames forced him to let go. The silence after was profound, broken only by Damon's ragged breathing. Elena wrapped her arms around him, and he leaned into her touch. Stefan wiped his eyes. We need to go to the old estate. Find what Mum left. Margaret died trying to tell us. They drove to the original Salvatore property. Nothing left but foundations and overgrown gardens. Bonnie extended her magical senses, searching for concealed spells. After 20 minutes, she stopped near what had been the kitchen. Here, there's old magic, protection spells and concealment wards. Stefan and Damon cleared dirt and debris until they found a wooden door with the Salvatore crest carved into it. Damon placed his hand on the crest, and immediately the wood began glowing blue. The door unlocked with a click, revealing stone steps descending into darkness. Inside they found a small underground room, surprisingly well preserved. A wooden chest sat beside a mounted wooden box with glass front containing letters, a leather-bound journal, and a small crystal vial of preserved blood. Stefan opened the chest, finding more letters and personal items, while Damon approached the wall box. A plaque beneath read, "For my sons, that you might understand." Damon carefully removed the journal. Stefan moved beside him. "We should read this together." Damon shook his head. "The Guardians were for me." "I need to read this first." Stefan understood, placing a hand on Damon's shoulder. "Okay, we'll be right outside." The group filed out, leaving Damon alone. He sat against the wall and opened the journal to the first page dated 3 months before Lily's death. "Today I met a witch who saw the future, and I wish to God she hadn't told me what she saw." Damon read through entries, each more heartbreaking than the last. Lily wrote about the witch's vision in detail, about seeing both sons turned into vampires, watching Damon specifically lose his humanity completely. She wrote about agonizing over whether to tell them or protect them secretly, about meeting Margaret and the other vampires, about the magical binding ceremony that cost her dearly. The witch required payment. She took years from my life, what few I had left. But I would give them all to know my boys would be protected. There were entries about Stefan too, about his strength and moral compass, her faith he'd find his way through darkness. Stefan will suffer, but he will rise above it. Damon, my beautiful damaged eldest, will need more help. Not because he's weaker, but because he feels more deeply, loves more completely, and will be destroyed more thoroughly by loss and betrayal. Damon read about his mother's observations of him as a sensitive boy who hid feelings behind charm. She wrote about loving both sons differently but equally, about impossible choices mothers face. The final entry was addressed to Damon. "My darling boy, if you are reading this, you have become what I feared and survived it. I want you to know I saw your future and didn't flinch. I didn't love you less for the darkness. I loved you more. Loved you enough to spend my final months arranging protection I'd never see. You are not weak, not broken beyond repair. You are loved, have always been loved, and I pray that gives you strength when darkness seems overwhelming. Be kind to your brother and to yourself. Whatever you've done, whatever you've become, you are still my son, and I am proud. With all my love always, your mother." Damon closed the journal and let himself break, sobbing for the mother he'd lost, for the protection he'd never known, for the 12 vampires who'd given their lives, for the weight of being loved so completely by someone who'd known he'd suffer. After an hour, Damon emerged, journal in hand, eyes red, but expression calmer. He walked to Stefan and held out the journal. "You should read it." Stefan took it carefully. "Are you okay?" Damon's laugh was watery but genuine. "No, but I will be eventually." She saw me, Stefan. Really saw me. All the broken pieces. And she loved me anyway. Elena moved to him, and he pulled her into a fierce hug. They returned to the boarding house and rested a few hours. Around noon they reconvened. Stefan had read the journal cover to cover. She was remarkably insightful about both of us. About the paths we'd take. Caroline had her laptop open. "There haven't been any new deaths since Margaret. I think she really was the last." Bonnie nodded. "The magical signature is completely dissipated." Stefan pulled out notes he'd compiled. Mum wrote about specific incidents when the Guardians intervened. In 1864, there was a vampire named Marcus who tracked us. A Guardian eliminated him. In 1903, Damon, you were in Chicago, picked a fight with vampires, should have been killed, but 2 disappeared before the fight. That was the Guardians. Caroline's eyes widened. "How many times?" Stefan scanned his notes. "At least 15 major incidents over the years when Damon was in lethal danger, and Guardians either eliminated threats or manipulated circumstances. Probably dozens of minor interventions we'll never know about." The revelations accumulated, incident after incident where Damon had survived against impossible odds. Bonnie gestured to the crystal vial, that spelled, "very carefully preserved." "I think it's your mother's blood." Stefan examined it. "Why preserve her blood?" Bonnie's voice was quiet. "In some traditions, blood creates a permanent connection transcending death. It could be used for communication spells, to see memories, to strengthen familial bonds." Caroline broke the silence. Why did the compulsion break now? Bonnie had been thinking about this. Compulsion that's strong requires an anchor, usually the person who created it, their life force maintaining the spell. But Lily died in 1858, so something else was anchoring it. She paused, realization dawning. Unless she didn't die, unless she became a vampire and her vampirism was maintaining it. The idea recontextualized everything. Stefan was stunned. If Mum was turned, where has she been? Why didn't she reach out? Damon's voice was hard. Because she abandoned us. But Elena heard the pain beneath. Bonnie shook her head. If she was maintaining the spell and it broke, something happened to her recently. Something that severed her connection. They spent hours researching, looking for any evidence Lily survived her supposed death. Caroline found an old newspaper article about a woman matching Lily's description seen in Savannah in 1859. The description is specific. Blonde woman with green eyes at the dock speaking with a vampire associate. Stefan leaned over. Savannah is where Mum always wanted to travel. They compiled a timeline of possible Lily sightings over decades, painting a picture of someone who stayed in motion, maintaining distance from Mystic Falls. The most recent mention was 6 months ago in North Carolina, a vampire woman matching Lily's description looking ill and weakened. Then the trail went cold. Damon processed this with growing anger. She could have come home at any point, but chose to stay away. Before Stefan could respond, Bonnie's phone rang. She answered, listened, and her expression grew grim. That was a witch contact. 6 months ago, a powerful vampire was captured by a supernatural faction in North Carolina, imprisoned somewhere hidden. The description matches Lily Salvatore. The words shifted everything. "She's a prisoner?" Elena said. That's why the spell broke. Damon felt his world tilt, anger transforming into fear. Stefan was already moving. "We need to find her." Bonnie held up a hand. The faction that captured her, they're powerful old guard vampires called the Purists, who don't approve of vampires with humanity. They've been capturing and imprisoning them for decades. Caroline went pale. So Lily has been locked up for 6 months, unable to escape. Damon's hands clenched. Where is she? Bonnie shook her head. My contact doesn't know exactly, but thinks it's in Virginia, probably within 100 miles. Stefan's mind worked through strategies. We have resources, contacts. If we put the word out, offer incentives, someone will know. Over 2 days, they worked tirelessly, reaching out to every contact, calling in favours, following leads. Bonnie used magic to search for Lily's signature. Caroline coordinated information. Elena provided support. Finally, Klaus Michaelsen called, having heard through the grapevine. I know the faction you're looking for. They call themselves the Purists, old vampires who see human attachment as contamination. They have a facility about 60 miles northwest, hidden in a mountain compound. Damon was cautious. Why are you helping Klaus? Klaus's response was straightforward. Because I respect family bonds, and because the Purists threaten my own family. Helping you serves multiple purposes. Stefan traced the location, and Bonnie confirmed strong vampire presence heavily warded. We need a plan, Caroline said. They spent hours strategizing. Bonnie would disrupt the wards, Stefan and Damon would infiltrate, Caroline would provide backup, Elena would coordinate from outside. As they prepared, Damon tucked the crystal vial of his mother's blood in his pocket, thinking if Lily was weak, her own blood might help heal her. They drove through the night, arriving at dawn. The compound was remote, carved into mountainside, entrance hidden. Bonnie extended her senses. Give me 15 minutes. She began chanting, and finally nodded. It's done. You have maybe 20 minutes before they restore the wards. Stefan and Damon moved immediately with Caroline behind. Inside, they found a facility that was part prison, part fortress with cells lining corridors. They moved quickly, checking each cell. Then, in a cell at the far end, they found her. Lily Salvatore sat on a stone bench, thin and pale, blonde hair dirty and tangled. But her green eyes were alert. When she saw her sons, her expression crumbled into disbelief and hope and profound joy. My boys, Lily whispered, hand covering her mouth as tears streamed. My beautiful boys. You found me. Stefan moved first, tearing the cell door off with vampire strength. Then both brothers were inside, and Lily was in their arms, sobbing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I couldn't tell you. Couldn't come home. I wanted to, but thought you were better off thinking I was dead than knowing what I'd become. Damon held her tighter, anger dissolving. We read your journal, Mum. We know about the Guardians. The protection spell. We know you tried to help. Lily pulled back to look at them, hands framing their faces. You turned out so well, both of you. I've watched when I could, heard stories, and I'm so proud. Stefan, your compassion. Damon, your resilience and how you fought back to humanity. You're both extraordinary. Damon buried his face in his mother's shoulder and cried, really cried. Stefan wrapped arms around both, but Caroline's voice from the corridor brought reality back. Guys, we need to move. I'm hearing people coming. They moved quickly, Damon supporting Lily, who could barely walk, Stefan leading. They encountered 3 purist vampires who attacked, but Stefan and Caroline fought them off, while Damon got Lily to safety. They made it out just as the ward slammed back. Elena had a van ready, and they drove away at dangerous speeds. Lily drifted in and out of consciousness. Damon pulled out the crystal vial, pressing it to her lips. Drink, Mum. It's your blood. You preserved it. Lily's eyes flickered. You found it. You found everything. She drank and slowly colour returned, strength flowing back as the spelled blood worked. By the time they reached the boarding house, Lily could walk with support. The group gathered, and Lily looked at the faces. Elena, Bonnie, Caroline, Matt. Strangers who were clearly important to her sons. Thank you for taking care of them, for being their family when I couldn't be here. Elena stepped forward. "It's an honour to meet you, Mrs. Salvatore. Your sons are remarkable men." Lily settled on the couch, still weak, but improving, and looked at her sons. "I need to explain everything. You deserve the full truth." Over hours, Lily told her story. How she'd been turned by a vampire who took pity on her dying of consumption. How she'd initially been horrified but then remembered the prophecy and realised she could maintain the protection spell. She told them about decades spent wandering, watching from distance, maintaining the Guardian network. She explained she stayed away to avoid conflict, didn't want them to feel obligated. "I was going to reveal myself eventually, waiting for the right time, for you both to be stable. But 6 months ago, the purists caught me. They'd been tracking vampires they considered traitors. They captured me, cut me off from magic. I felt the spell fail, felt the Guardians dying, and couldn't stop it." Damon reached out, taking her hand. "The Guardians died protecting me like you intended. They served their purpose, and we found you because they led us to your journal. Their sacrifice wasn't in vain." Lily squeezed his hand. "Margaret was the last, wasn't she?" I felt her pass. "I'm glad she got to see you before she died." Stefan, who had been quiet, spoke. "Why didn't you arrange protection for me too?" Lily turned to him. "Because the witch's vision showed me you didn't need it the same way. She showed me you falling and struggling, but always finding your way back. Your moral compass is so strong that even when you lost yourself, you could return. Damon's compass is external, tied to people he loves. When he felt betrayed and alone, he had nothing to guide him back. It wasn't about strength or weakness, it was about different needs. I love you both equally, but had to make choices about how to help." The explanation was honest and painful. Stefan nodded slowly. "I understand. I'm not angry." Lily's relief was visible. Over the following weeks, they settled into new normal. Lily took a room in the boarding house, slowly regaining strength, learning about her sons' lives, building relationships with their friends. She and Elena developed a close bond. She and Bonnie worked on strengthening the magical communication link, using Lily's preserved blood, creating a permanent connection between mother and sons. Caroline helped Lily adjust to modern technology, and Stefan and Damon slowly learned how to have a mother again, how to let her in without betraying the independence they'd fought to maintain. There were difficult conversations, moments when old pain resurfaced, when Damon would retreat or Stefan would grow distant. But they worked through it, family therapy conducted over bourbon and blood bags, honest and messy, and healing. One evening, about a month after the rescue, Damon found Lily in the study, reading through journals. She looked up smiling. "You've lived such full lives, I'm sorry I missed most of it." Damon sat beside her. "You didn't miss all of it. You were there in ways we didn't know. The Guardians, the protection spell, all those times I should have died. That was you." Lily touched his face. "I wish I could have protected you from the pain, not just the danger. But I couldn't stop your heart from being broken, or your humanity from being lost. All I could do was try to keep you alive long enough to find your way back." Damon covered her hand. "You did more than that, Mum. You gave me something I didn't know I needed. The knowledge that someone believed I was worth saving even when I didn't. The Guardians might be gone, but that legacy, that faith, it's still here. It's part of why I kept fighting to be better." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "That's all I ever wanted. For you to know you were loved, worth fighting for." Later that night, the whole family gathered for dinner, something Lily had insisted on instituting. Around the table sat Stefan and Elena, Damon and Lily, Caroline and Bonnie, Matt, who'd become honorary family through loyalty. They ate and laughed and told stories, and for a while the supernatural chaos felt distant. After dinner, Stefan and Damon walked their mother through the gardens behind the house, the same gardens Lily had planted over 150 years ago. "I used to dream about this," Lily said softly. "Being here with you both. Seeing you grown and strong and alive." Stefan's arm was around her shoulders. "We're glad you're here, Mum." Damon nodded, usual sarcasm absent. "Yeah, it's good having you home." Lily stopped and turned to face her sons, taking both their hands. "I know I can't undo the past, can't give you back the years we lost, but I promise, for whatever time we have, I'm going to be here, really here, not watching from shadows. I'm going to be your mother in all the ways I couldn't be before." The promise was simple, but profound. "We promise too," Stefan said. "We'll let you in even when it's hard. We'll try to be a family." Damon squeezed his mother's hand. "Fair warning though, we're pretty dysfunctional." Lily laughed. "I raised you boys. I think I can handle dysfunctional." They walked back together, 3 vampires who'd found their way through impossible darkness back to each other. Inside, Elena caught Damon's eye and smiled, seeing the peace in his expression. He crossed to her, wrapping arms around her from behind. "Thank you." Elena turned in his embrace. "For what?" Damon's voice was soft. "For helping me find her, for being patient while I processed, for being what I needed." Elena kissed him gently. "That's what love is, Damon. Your mother taught me that, watching what she did all these years. She never gave up, and neither will I." The words settled into Damon's heart, joining his mother's faith, building a foundation of belief he could finally accept. As evening wound down, Lily stood on the porch, watching sunset over Mystic Falls. Stefan joined her. "Do you regret it? The choices you made?" Lily considered seriously. "I regret the time we lost, the years I could have been in your lives openly. But I don't regret trying to protect you, using every resource to give you the best chance. A mother's love isn't always convenient, Stefan. Sometimes it means making hard choices, doing things that might be seen as manipulation, because standing by and watching your children suffer without trying to help, that's unbearable." Stefan nodded. "I think I understand that better now." Damon emerged, interrupting. "Are we having deep conversations without me?" Rude, but his tone was affectionate. Lily held out her arm and he came, standing on her other side. The 3 stood as stars emerged. A family broken and scattered, reunited through impossible odds and stubborn love. "I used to stand here when you were children," Lily said softly, "right in this spot, looking at these stars, praying you'd grow up happy and safe. Then I spent a century watching from distance, still praying. Now I get to stand here with you, knowing my prayers were answered, at least partially. You're not just survivors, you're good men." Stefan's arm tightened around her. "We had a good example. A mother who taught us love means sacrifice, that family is worth fighting for, that redemption is always possible." Damon added, voice uncharacteristically sincere, and that sometimes people who love us see things we can't see in ourselves. "You gave me that, Mum, through the Guardians, through your letters, through everything. Thank you." Lily turned to look at both sons, eyes bright. "Thank you for finding me, for bringing me home, for giving me a second chance to be your mother." Damon shook his head. "Nothing to forgive. You did what you thought we needed, and you were right. I did need protection, even if I was too stubborn to admit it." In the weeks that followed, Lily became a fixture in Mystic Falls, known and loved by the community. She worked with Bonnie to strengthen the town's magical protections. She volunteered at the hospital using vampire abilities to help. She hosted dinners and holiday gatherings, building traditions for a family too long without them. And slowly the weight of the past eased for all three Salvatores. Damon stopped looking over his shoulder, learning to accept love as something he deserved. Stefan relaxed, knowing his mother's faith in his strength had been blessing, not burden. And Lily found peace in presence, in participating in her sons' lives rather than observing from distance. The guardians were gone, their sacrifice honoured in the family's commitment to being better, to helping others, to choosing connection. And though the protection spell had broken, the love that inspired it remained stronger for being freely given rather than magically compelled. One evening, Lily passed by the study hearing her sons work together and smiled satisfied. Later, lying in bed in the house where she'd once been human and dying, Lily closed her eyes and felt truly at peace. Her sons were alive, thriving, loved and loving. The guardian's sacrifice had mattered, the spell had worked, and she'd been given a second chance she'd never dared hope for. And it was enough. If you finished this story, tell me in the comments whether you think Lily made the right choices in how she protected her sons, or if there was another path she should have taken. And subscribe if you want more Vampire Diaries stories that explore the complicated bonds of family and the many forms love can take.